What up, everyone? I'm Jack Slater, aka the Comic Outlaw. Yeah. And you know what time it is? It's time for a review, a movie review. Something that was very popular back in the day, but I don't know if people have seen it or even give it a hello or a hey. It's a classic movie about robbery, bank robbery, and the criminals try to win, try to get that money, spend it in some kind of tropical island with a big fat grin. But this story doesn't begin at the beginning. It kind of sets at the middle and then shows you the ending. Now, who's responsible for this rearrangement of movie? Who's responsible for this change? Well, it's a mad scientist named Quentin Tarantino. And he tends to mix things up. And this was one of his first movies back in the day. This is Reservoir Dogs. Now, this movie is fascinating. Check it out. This is the deluxe edition with all the bells and whistles. You can see all the stuff that's listed there, and there's a lot of documentaries, a lot of music. We'll get into that right now. Reservoir Dogs is about these mafiosos that get this group of guys together that they know. They don't know each other, but they've worked with them here and there. They've done jobs for them, or they hire new talent, like someone they've heard from a friend of a friend, to do a robbery, to break into a store, rob it, bring the money in, take their share, and then leave town. Not knowing each other, not talking to the other people, not having any real names. That way, if someone gets busted, someone gets spotted, they can't rat out the other guys. So they go by different names. Mr. Orange, Mr. White, Mr. Pink, Mr. Blonde. And there's also a few other ones, Mr. Blue, Mr. Brown. And why? Why the colors? Well, they just decided to do that. It just makes sense, just using colors. And the reason the mafia also has assigned people colors is because everyone starts fighting over Mr. Black. They end up shooting each other. They don't know each other's reputation, so nobody wants to back down. It ends up in a gunfight. So that's why they picked the colors. Now, the fascinating thing about this movie, this is spoilers for an old movie. So if you think that I'm spoiling something that came out in 1992 and it's going to hurt your sensitive ears, plug them. Watch the movie and then come back. Oh, wait. All right. Anyways, see, this is the interesting thing that kind of threw people off, but I actually found pretty cool, is you don't actually really see the robbery too much. It's the after effects. What happens when the deal goes bad or when it goes south, and what you do to survive in that situation. That's what makes this movie interesting. And the fact that there's an undercover. Yes, there is an undercover in this movie that ends up kind of getting them in trouble and kind of leading them to their demise, or at least most of them. This movie, wonderful performances from Harvey Keitel, Michael Madison, Mr. Blonde. Oh, they never called him Mr. Yellow. They called him Mr. Blonde. I guess blonde sounds better than yellow. Mr. Pink was played by Steve Buscemi. This is one of those movies that introduced Steve Buscemi, that kind of gave him that push that he needed for his career. He does a wonderful job as Mr. Pink. Actually, really worth watching. It's classic Tarantino. I mean, it has all the Tarantino tropes. A little bit of pervertedism, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And there's also a famous dance by Mr. Blonde to the song called "Stuck in the Middle with You," where he gives a cop a little ear trim. Yeah, this movie has all kinds of cool stuff on it. And actually, the documentaries on this are really cool. It even talks about how the Sundance Film Festival they're in. It even has the radio station that they play. K Billy. Isn't that K Billy? What is? What movie sounds like that Quentin Tarantino did? Kill Bill. Yeah, but there's a lot of cool stuff on it. There's a lot of cool '70s music on it too, and you could tell like like this movie gave birth to a lot of his other projects later on down the road, like Pulp Fiction. This also had a plethora of like cuss words and phrases and very interesting things that only Tarantino seems to bring. I don't know if like Tarantino has a slight thing of racism or whatever, because he does refer to black people in this movie a lot, where it's a lot of white people doing the talking on it. But like I said, people talk like that in real life. They talk like that back then, so it's kind of realistic to a point, because some people are just plain out and out fucking racist. Some people have differences like that, and it's not just black or white. There are racist people in every race, and this movie doesn't shelter you from that. And I don't think most movies have to shelter you from that, because that's the real world. That's the world we live in. I mean, if it was a perfect world and we can all go hand in hand to the pub and have a beer, it'd be nice. But it just, you know. But besides that, there are so many good things about this movie. You kind of find out how far someone will go for the loot, how far someone will go for the job, how far someone will go for a friend. And the movie kind of jumps back and forth. So you see what's going on, like in the present of the movie, and then it jumps back where you get to meet every individual one by one. And one of them is a Vega. I want you to listen to the movie, and I don't want to tell you which one, but one of them is a Vega, and who's related to a one Vince Vega in Pulp Fiction. So they wanted to connect those worlds together, and they, like I said, Tarantino has this wonderful way of connecting the Tarantino universe, I guess you could call it, together, and I think it's pretty cool. Actually, in a backstory, Harvey Keitel store person, Mr. White, was supposed to be seeing Foxy Brown, which is another movie later on. They kind of hint to that. It's fascinating how these worlds kind of connect, and how ideas are brought up and then dropped, as the progression of movies and years go on, and of course how ideas evolve. But this movie is worth watching and stands the test of time. It has, the ending is one of the most messed up endings, yet incredibly poetic. And someone does get away with the money, and I don't want to exactly tell you who, because I want you guys to watch this movie and find out which one of these guys is going to end up with the prize, if you know what I'm saying. Yeah, like this movie has a lot of, like, it's one of those crime movies with a twist, because you never see what happens when it goes wrong. Like, you see that for a few minutes, the cops come out, boom, boom, and then they roll credits, and then the show's over. Fascinating movie. It kind of set the bar for a lot of movies later on in the 90s and the 2000s, as far as storytelling, structure, and you don't have to start at the same place that everyone else does, as long as you can make it pay off, make it good. And Tarantino, like I said, his movies are actually pretty good. I enjoy a fair share of Quentin Tarantino's movies. I've always been a fan of Tarantino. I kind of get where he's going with certain things. I understand. And Tarantino has a way of painting a very fucked up picture that everyone just seems to enjoy the hell out of. I mean, the man plays with cuss words, violence, dirty jokes, shit that people just don't say, stories that normally people go, about. And he just makes it wonderful. He just turns it into art. And yeah, this is one of Tarantino's first movies. So if you really want a taste of early Quentin Tarantino, I recommend this movie. And even if you've just seen like Kill Bill or like some of his other like later movies like Hateful Eight or something like that, I'd recommend going back to this. It's really cool. The actors in it are awesome. Their lines are priceless. It's just really worth watching all the way through. And that, of course, is the Comic Outlaws movie review. And as always, I'll catch you on the flip side. Yeah.